Welcome back to Sports Roundtable, State News' sports podcast, talking all things MSU sports. Welcome back to another episode. I am Jake Smith. I am joined by...
I'm Lucas Gentilia.
Podcast debut.
I'm Luke Joseph.
I'm Maddie Warden.
Welcome to Roundtable, Luke. It's nice to have you here. First time on the podcast. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about a Super Bowl recap since that just happened, pretty big in sports. We're also going to hit a little bit on MSU gymnastics, MSU hockey, and MSU baseball upcoming this season. We got some exciting times here for MSU sports. Some sports rounding out, some sports starting up, so it's very, very nice here. But let's first start with the Super Bowl. I'm pretty sure Luke is pretty eager to talk about this one with your Eagles, but Philadelphia Eagles 40, Kansas City 22. What are like the initial thoughts we got here, guys?
We blew them out of the stadium. That's what can I say? We're the best team in the league right now. Jalen Hurts, he's a god sent from the heavens. You know, Saquon Barkley. I should let everyone else go, just so I can go last and I can give just the full biased reaction. Okay, I'll let you guys do the unbiased reaction and just. I'll let you guys do that. Okay.
No, Maddie, you want to start?
All right, well, fly, Eagles, fly. I had the closest score prediction, 37-24, and the score ended up being 40-22, so I can brag about that all I want. But that was just overall, the Eagles were just so much more put together, it looked like, than the Chiefs were. And we knew going into this, Patrick Mahomes hadn't had that star season that we've seen from him in years past, that he's won Super Bowls, and clearly that is exactly what happened. He was sacked, 5 or 6 times, threw for 2 or 3 interceptions. He did not look like the Patrick Mahomes that Chiefs fans know and love, and that really, really hurt them in the long run. I think Kelsey only had like 3 catches total, and he didn't have his first one until the second half. Xavier Worthy was the only reason that they were still in that game for some points, and yeah, I mean, clearly the Eagles wanted it more than the Chiefs in that game.
Yeah, talk about a domination on defense. Philadelphia was getting to Patrick Mahomes like I've never seen since that Super Bowl that we had, the Kansas City Chiefs matchup against the Buccaneers, in which the Buccaneers won 31-9. It felt like Patrick Mahomes was kind of just running for his life every single play of that game, and the same thing happened this Super Bowl. It was just a defensive dominance by Philadelphia. They were really getting to Patrick Mahomes as much as they could. There was multiple snaps where Patrick Mahomes caught the ball and then immediately started running away like he knew he was about to get pressured. And he didn't even drop back to pass. So, I mean, you kind of could tell how the game was going to go. It did remind me a lot of like that Super Bowl 55 matchup we saw with Tampa Bay and Kansas City, like I was just talking about, but also the Eagles played really well. Their defense was the big reason why. Cooper DeJean with the pick 6. Zach Bond also had an interception. Josh Sweat had 2.5 sacks. Like, they were firing all cylinders, and they didn't care what they were going to do to Patrick Mahomes. They almost like killed him. It felt like they were just getting to him at all points. Patrick Mahomes faced pressure on 53.3% of snaps for the entire game. He was getting pressured more than half the time. He had to think under his hat, like literally half the plays. So very dominant performance. Eagles with a great win. Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl MVP. But Luke, what do you got to say about that?
I mean, one of the better Super Bowls I've watched in a while. Great to see the Chiefs finally lose one in the Super Bowl. But really what amazed me was the Eagles not having to rely on Saquon Barkley like you were talking about. He only had, less than half his normal yards in a normal game, maybe 50, 60 yards. And it really, like you said, a testament to their defense with not having to rely on the run game like they have all year.
Yeah.
And Jalen Hurts was able to do his thing, one of the best performances he's had all year, really silenced a lot of the doubters around the country and even some in Philadelphia. I mean, what were your thoughts here, Luke?
You guys done?
Yeah, well, the last thing I'll say is you guys were, I think, like week 4-ish. You're like, Jalen Hurts sucks. Let's bench him, and then he proved everybody wrong. But let's hear your thoughts.
Same with Coach Sirianni.
Yeah, we heard all the criticisms. You know, the people on ESPN, the people on FS1. Nick Wright. You know, we heard it. We didn't let it phase us. You know, Jalen Hurts, he just proved he's the best quarterback in the NFC. Saquon Barkley, he's been just amazing all year. He didn't have a good game at all. You know, the Chiefs, they really locked him down. I will give them credit for that. But overall, they forgot that Jalen Hurts can run. You know, he had 72 yards. He just broke his own record for most rushing yards by quarterback in the Super Bowl. A.J. Brown had a touchdown. You know, Cooper DeJean with the pick six. You know, Zach Bond. We didn't blitz one time
Yeah.
that whole game.
Yeah.
That's
That's really what surprised me the most.
and you know, it's this and obviously the 2018 Super Bowl when we beat Tom Brady. We essentially stopped them from also three-peating, so we're pretty much just the three-peat killers at this point. You know, so Howie Roseman, greatest GM in the game right now. Jeffrey Lurie, he's just the perfect owner. Like, he's willing to spend, and he's also not one to interfere. He lets the people do his jobs. Yeah, this is just an amazing. It was just an amazing game to watch, you know. And it sucks that I won't be able to go to the parade on Valentine's Day, which is the best day to put a Super Bowl parade on.
The city of brotherly love
Yeah,
is hosting the Super Bowl on the day of love.
They are expecting 1.5 million people to show up.
Oh,
I have plenty of friends going. It's
Yeah.
insane.
All the Philly schools are closed down, from what I saw. And yeah, it's that parade. That parade might honestly be bigger than the one from 2018.
Yeah,
because it's
yeah, I'm sure.
Philly does not play
it's-
around.
Just hoping everyone stays safe in Philly.
Yeah.
yeah.
honestly.
We're just a different type of fan.
You
is
guys
what
are
I'll
a
say.
different breed, and it's quite frightening.
It really is. I mean, but
You guys in Boston.
Yeah.
we're different than Boston. Boston ain't got nothing on it. They not like us. That's what I'll say. Shout out Kendrick.
Yeah.
Or that one.
Yeah, I got a question for you. Which Super Bowl was more crazy for you to see? Because obviously the one against Tom Brady in New England was a close one, instant classic.
Yeah.
You won your first Super Bowl in franchise history, blew out Tom Brady with backup quarterback Nick Foles. Now you got this Super Bowl, which was probably one of the more dominant Super Bowls in Super Bowl history, kind of all from start to finish in all aspects of the game. Which one kind of meant more to you as a fan? That's a question.
That's really hard to answer because both of them were so shocking. I mean,
Yeah.
against Tom Brady, we had our backup quarterback in Nick Foles. You know, he beat Tom Brady. He didn't outplay him, but like, you know, it was
You guys still won the game.
we still won the game. But like, this one was just a total beatdown. Like we didn't allow Travis Kelce to get a catch for the entire first half. Like, it was just
Unreal.
He honestly, and I don't know what's going on inside of his head, but it's like he honestly didn't look like he wanted to play.
Yeah.
Like, if you kind of like go back and watch the highlights, there's a point in time where, you know, Patrick Mahomes was like running for his life, and then Travis Kelce's kind of just standing there, and you know, it just looked like he didn't even want to play. Like, that's how just locked in our defense was. We just took the fun out of the game pretty much.
Yeah, you really did.
But to answer your question, I'll say this one might be a tad bit better for me, just because of the fact that, you know, it was just such a beatdown. Like, you know, we completely took Patrick Mahomes, who everybody's having as the next GOAT. We just took him down.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he looks so demoralized.
Yeah.
So,
It
and
was
I couldn't be
unreal.
happy about it. I couldn't be more happy about it.
You really can't put the two in the same conversation anymore between Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Tom Brady really has just separated himself in that conversation at this point in his career.
Yeah, I think that if the Chiefs really would have pulled off that three-peat, then that's when people would have really solidified the conversation of he is up there with
There's
Tom
no
Brady.
doubt. Totally.
But especially after this game and seeing how dominant the Eagles were for the entire game, like it's completely out of the conversation until he wins his next Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think that's important to note too. I mean, Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes have the same record through 5 Super Bowls. They're both 3-2. So obviously, Mahomes is doing stuff that is only like it honestly can't even be replicated more than
Yeah.
a couple of times. I believe he's up there in terms of skill level and accolades so far for the point of the career that he's at compared to Tom Brady. I think he is kind of on that track a little bit, but obviously Brady hasn't suffered a beatdown twice like Mahomes has in the Super Bowl. But
And
Yeah.
and might I say, Tom Brady can come back from that deficit. We've seen like he did against the Atlanta Falcons.
I mean, it's when you kind of watch like the Patriots play in those Super Bowls, it's like they were always in that game, but in both the Chiefs' losses and the Super Bowls, they were just completely outmatched. It looked like. I mean, against the Buccaneers, that looked reminiscent of the game that just happened on Sunday. Like it was just a total annihilation. And I mean, you're not gonna hear me complaining about it. You know, we kicked them out. We kicked them out of New Orleans pretty much. So, but yeah, it was just a great thing to watch.
yeah, I don't think anybody would have expected that storyline, especially with how dominant the game was. But just to close it off, a few more interesting stats that I thought were notable. Kansas City only ran the ball 7 times with their running backs in total. Patrick Mahomes was leading rusher with 25 yards. So obviously they could not get their ground game going as much as we're accustomed to see from Kansas City, who isn't exactly fantastic in that regard, but should still have a pretty decent backfield in Pacheco and Kareem Hunt to rely on at least to get them some yards. But crazy development there. And then your Super Bowl MVP, Jalen Hurts, he was 17 of 22 for 221 yards in the air with an interception, but he had 2 touchdowns, and then he had that touchdown on the ground along with 72 rushing yards. So really just a complete all-around showing from the Philadelphia Eagles. Congratulations to the Super Bowl champions and Luke's Super Bowl champion Eagles there. But to kind of segue into the next segment, we're going to talk a little bit about MSU hockey. Definitely a very, very fun season. This is Maddie's expertise right here as the beat reporter, but so much fun this season. 22-5-3 overall. First in the Big Ten with 43 points. Everything has been rolling on all cylinders so far. There are a few setbacks sometimes, as any great team will face, but 2 series left against Penn State and Notre Dame, the 2 last teams in the Big Ten. So, Maddie, heading into Big Ten conference season and the playoff season, what do we need to see from MSU hockey to kind of finish out strong? Because they've been facing a little bit of adversity as of late.
Yeah, they have not swept a series since the beginning of January. So that's kind of tough when you put them in that position of they had such a strong lead in the Big Ten for quite some time, and now they're only 5 points ahead of Minnesota, who's also a powerhouse. They have such a deep roster, just like Michigan State does. Their top line, they have players like Jimmy Snuggerud, Oliver Moore, all those guys, all those NTDP guys. They're just dominant forces to be reckoned with. They're coming into a bye week this week, which is a really tough situation for the team to be put in, especially when Minnesota plays this weekend and then plays the next 2 weekends after that. And obviously we do as well. Like you said, a little bit of adversity with our captain, Red Savage, being out for the rest of the season with a shoulder injury. And I don't want to say it changes things, but you're out your captain. So it makes it tough not having that leadership on the ice, but there are so many guys on that team who don't have a letter on their jersey that have the ability to step up, especially the older guys. Nicholas Andrews is a grad transfer from Colorado College, and he's really had a chance to step up and show his leadership capability. Carson Dorwart, Matt Basgall, and Tiernan Chowdy all are alternate captains, and they've really they've really stepped up on the ice, even with Red not out there. But you have to think there's teams that have played without captains before. There's teams in the NHL who have gone years without even announcing a captain of their team. There's guys out there that are going to step up, that are going to make that team what it is. So I wouldn't say it changes anything. Obviously, it's different when you don't have your captain on the ice. You have him in the locker room instead, still having that voice. They split with Michigan last weekend, which was definitely a tough one to take. They kind of plagued themselves in the first period with 23 penalty minutes. 33 ended up being total of the game, but 23 penalty minutes in the first period is unexcusable, especially when you get a player like Danny Russell, who was ejected in the first half of the first period, who is second in the country for game-winning goals. You can't lose a guy on the ice like that. And then you come back in night 2 and you have such a dominant performance, 6-1 win over Michigan, that they did. So they have a lot that they need to look forward to in the next couple weeks, and that's been their motto has been take it one day at a time, take it one game at a time, but they need to realize that these next couple weeks are crucial if they want that number 1 seed in the Big Ten tournament and if they want another bye week. And if they don't get that, they head to Minnesota. So it should be an interesting next couple weeks. They've obviously been extremely dominant throughout the season. They were last season, but this season has just been different. They've been top 4 the entirety of the season. Started at number 4. They were ranked number 1 for a little while there, and now we've just been a steady number 2 behind Boston College, which is obviously they are a powerhouse. So so next couple weekends are crucial. Need to take as many points as they possibly can, and we need Michigan to win this weekend. I never thought those words would ever come out of my mouth, but I need the Wolverines to take down Minnesota this weekend in Yost. So
that'd be really nice. Yeah, and Isaac Howard has been playing just out of his mind all season. Hobie Baker finalist, and the voting's open for that. The voting for the Hobie Baker Awards open now. Fans, go vote for Isaac Howard. Go vote for that man. He deserves it. To get an award like that would just mean everything and be something great for MSU here to wrap up the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I said in my article 22 goals this season for number 22. I mean, the Iceman's been on fire. He's definitely up there with the Hobie Baker conversation. Him and Jimmy Snuggerud are both Big Ten players that have the 2 top receiving votes right now, as of right now with the Hobie Baker Award. So it definitely shows that there is a lot of power within the Big Ten Conference, and that's what Adam Nightingale says all the time. We're the best conference in college hockey, and no doubt about it. There's obviously one thing that he said that I really took into mind is, we are an amazing conference. One team's got to be at the top and one team's going to be at the bottom, and that doesn't discredit the fact that they aren't playing good hockey. It's just there's more players and more teams out there that are doing better, and I guess that kind of leads into the upcoming series against Penn State with a team that has just been on the rise in the past few weeks. They're like last year's Ohio State team where they decide that very last second, let's make a run. Yeah. And that's obviously it's tough to come back to it now, but they're going to be a really tough team. They want it as much as we do.
Yeah, I agree. And Penn State just took down Ohio State, if I'm not mistaken, twice or once or twice, like in the last few weeks. So Penn State, like Maddie said, they're on the rise, and every team in the Big Ten is going to come to play. Obviously, it's been that kind of season. Even though Penn State's second to last at the bottom, they're going to play us tough no matter what, because Big Ten seeding and all that. Like you never know. Big Ten tournament. You never know who could take it down. So
exactly.
I think just for the rest of the hockey season for MSU, I think discipline's the biggest thing, because obviously without Red Savage as their captain, and like looking at penalty-wise, like MSU has 119 total penalties this season, and compared to 98 against their opponents. So they're obviously outnumbering their opponents in that regard, and that's not the regard that you want to outnumber your opponents in, because obviously penalties are the ones that get you in hockey. But I think you guys did shout out Isaac Howard, and he has been absolutely unreal this entire season. Not going to deny it one bit. He's got 22 goals, like we all said. But in his last 5 games, he only has 2 of those goals. He came in with 11 shots in one of his games against Michigan, and he's only averaging 4.4 shots total in his last 5 games over that kind of span. So he's had his hot stretches. He had a streak where he scored, I think, 8 games in a row. He scored a goal at least this past season earlier. So he knows, like, he can score. We know it. He's gonna show us that. And he's gonna come back and definitely come with a vengeance. But as of right now, he's been a little bit slower. His numbers haven't been as much as we've been seeing, and I think him stepping up a little bit would definitely be huge for MSU to kind of close out the season. It's just that's what I really want to see. And I mean, our scoring's been good. We've kind of been handling opponents all year long, kind of dominating them in some way. Like Minnesota, who we're talking about, who's scary. They're 5 points back in the Big Ten with 2 games less played than we have. We beat them that 1-9-3 game.
9 goals on them.
Yeah. Dropped 9 goals on them, won 9-3, and then took that other game in the shootout in the most recent series against them.
Yeah.
Beat them earlier in the season, and then got another shootout win over them earlier in January. So like we know this team is going to still score goals. They put up 6 against Michigan in their last game that they just played. So it's going to happen. Isaac Howard's going to be there to provide some of those goals, and no matter who goes down, this team is still resilient. This team has depth, and I think that's the most important thing for them, just to stay disciplined as they close the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting that you bring up the fact that Isaac Howard had 11 shots on goal against Michigan in their second game, because I was looking on Stat Broadcast, and you could tell that Isaac Howard wanted a goal so bad that game. But I think that one person who stood out to me a lot was Shane Van Sage. He's freshman forward on the team this year, and he's just been absolutely dominant throughout this whole season. You can tell that he's very much needed in front of the net. He has a very strong net front presence. He's the bumper during power plays. He's always right there just waiting for somebody to shoot, and he can tip in the goal. And I think that he probably had the best performance on the ice this past weekend at Little Caesars Arena for the duel in the D. He was just outstanding, and obviously credit to Isaac Howard, who did have those 11 shots, but with Shane Van Sage's first goal for the Spartans of the night, and then he really put in the dagger to beat Michigan with the third goal on the night on an assist from Mikey D'Angelo right in front of the net. Those are two players that I really think that other teams should watch out for, is Isaac Howard and Shane Van Sage. They've just been absolutely outrageous the past few games.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think that's the beautiful thing about college sports in general, not just college hockey, is that the depth is one of the most important factors of any team. We've seen it with MSU basketball as they've been successful this season, obviously MSU hockey, and I think that's just the biggest thing. With guys going down, with a lot of uncertainty, a lot of opportunities now opening up for lineup changes and stuff like that, it's just going to be like who's going to step up, especially with Van Sage. Like, you never know who's going to come out of here and start putting goals on the stat sheet, start locking it down on defense. You know, I mean, obviously it helps when you got Trey Augustine back in net, who's just been unreal at the top of the Big Ten in pretty much any statistic that you can imagine. But for the goal scoring department, I feel like there's been so many guys that have really stepped up, and I think that's what's beautiful. Everybody's willing to play their role. Everybody knows what they need to do to get wins, and not even just wins at that, but dominant wins. I think that's what's been the testament for success for MSU hockey this entire season. It's been so much fun to watch, and like, they're not slowing down. I know the losses are showing up a little bit more frequent than we're used to, but it's going to happen. Like, those are going to come. Get them out now before the postseason comes around, especially the Big Ten tournament, when we kind of got a lot of vulnerability from a lot of those teams like Penn State, Notre Dame at the bottom. But I mean, I think they're on the right track. Obviously, they've been on the perfect track, I should say, this entire season.
Oh, yeah.
Slip-ups are going to happen, but they've got people stepping up, and I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and like you said, Shane Van Sage, that kid's going to be special these next few years.
Yeah.
And Big Ten hockey, it really does just mean more. And
You got that right.
you got that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Any thoughts over there? I know we're leaving you out, but
I'm out of my league when it comes to
I just want to throw the opportunity out there for the mic before we move on. But so 3 weeks left in the season for MSU hockey. I guess you can call it 2.5 now, since we're at the midweek point. But 2 more matchups, 4 more games. It's going to be a big closeout stretch, but the boys have done it good all year. I think they'll be able to close it out strong.
Absolutely.
Moving on to MSU baseball. This is your expertise a little bit over there, Luke. That's our new MSU baseball beat reporter for this upcoming season. 2025 is going to look a little interesting. I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think for this team, especially after a 24-27 record last season? What's the outlook with this season starting up this week?
Yeah, and last year MSU baseball, word for them, average. They literally came out at 500 throughout the season. Just missed out on the Big Ten tournament, but they're looking good this year. A lot of new transfer players coming in, and a lot of new guys, a lot of young guys making their way, and they should have a good core group of guys that'll lead this team to success. Hopefully they start off this weekend in Cary, North Carolina. They get away from the cold and the insane amount of snow we're getting this weekend. Lucky them. They'll be playing Western Michigan, and I think they play Monmouth as well, and then also Dayton this weekend before moving on through other tournaments in the South, and they'll be back in March for their first home game against Michigan. But a couple guys I'm really looking out for: junior pitcher Joseph DeGerva. Really looking forward to that kid. He was named the Big Ten's preseason pitcher of the year. Had a sub-4 ERA last year as a sophomore, and just keep looking for that growth this year. And I think our pitchers have gotten a lot more deep this year. We have a lot more pitching depth than in years past, and I think it'll be really interesting to see how this team grows from last year and to see the success that they have out on the field.
Yeah, I agree with you because I think last year was kind of a testament to what the team could be, but obviously the pieces were not all complete there. They were definitely a young team last year, and I think that did go to show as they really progressed through the season. There wasn't much progression going on, but I think that kind of how they turned over the roster a little bit has helped. I like that you shouted out Joseph Jorza because he was almost going to Vanderbilt this year in the transfer window. He was really almost he kind of verbally committed to it, and then he's like, all right, wait, hold on, let me retract that. I'm going to come back and turn up for my junior season. I think that's definitely a good thing because especially in baseball and especially now in the new college NIL whole fiasco, I think that guys coming back and wanting to play for your program, no matter how big or small, is definitely important. George, he's set for a huge season, like you said, with all the preseason watch lists and acknowledgments and stuff like that. So I think that having that rotation, especially that guy, that go-to guy, if you put him on the mound, you're going to at least be in the game, if not win it. So I think that's what he can be this year, especially going into his junior season. I think that's very important to set the tone for the rotation. Obviously, the team is a little bit turned over from last year. The outfield's a little bit different than what we're going to be used to seeing with a couple news guys coming in, a couple freshmen, a couple transfers. But that infield's kind of really stayed a little bit the same. It was successful last year. It was kind of the best asset of the team last year. I think Jake Dresselhouse coming back obviously also helps that. He was a big name to watch last year. And I just think that the experienced infield, a good 1-2 guy to go to on the mound and a little bit of depth back there in the rotation. I think this team can do better than 24 and 27. I think it should be a little bit on the rise. Obviously, they're kind of projected middle in the pack going into this year in the Big Ten, but you bring in guys, you have some turnover, it's fine. But we kind of got to see how the season goes.
Yeah, and there's guys on the team like Sam Bush. He's a fifth-year redshirt senior on the team, plays first base. He's from East Lansing, played his high school ball in East Lansing, got recruited by Coach Jake Boss to come here. And it's just such a cool story being able to play for the school that you grew up rooting for your whole life in the same area and really look for him to have a breakout season. He fell off a little bit last year with a hamstring injury, but the bat has some major power. He hit upwards of 10 home runs last year, and his skills at first base have really solidified him as that go-to guy, as the starter. And he'll definitely be a force at the plate for this season. And I think he was named a captain as well by the rest of the team, along with Jacob Anderson. And he's really going to be the guy to lead this team going forward and hopefully get that success that we were talking about from last year.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And kind of going back to the pitching side a little bit too, because we got guys like Sam Bush that are coming back. I think some of the young guys that might come up, like Tate Farquhar, he's been injured a little bit. He's been a little bit injury riddled, hasn't got too much time on the mound so far, but he's a redshirt sophomore from Highland, Michigan, unstoppable at high school at Lakeland High School. He's been waiting for his chance now too, and I think that with how good he was in high school, and I think he's kind of ready for his turn now too, especially behind guys like Jorza. We also got Tommy Shapansky who's coming in. He's took a little bit to get going as well, but he came over and transferred over for Virginia Tech, and obviously he's a junior now. He's looking to get going for this season. So I think the rotation's solidified. You got veteran guys like Sam Bush in that hitting lineup that are going to be able to do it and just produce runs. This team didn't produce a ton of runs last year. They were kind of had games that were streaky, had games that weren't really as good as they thought they would be. Right. But I think they've done the right thing. They brought in all these pieces. They've kind of revamped the roster a little bit. They're like, okay, in this modern baseball era where you never know what could happen from year in, year out, they got some guys, got some recruits, a little bit of recruiting from other schools, and I think they put together a pretty solid roster. Obviously, I think this is one of the teams in the Big Ten where you really just don't know what could happen. They've had a lot of preseason expectations. They don't know where to put them. They're in the middle of the pack. Right. I feel like they can either make noise or obviously maybe struggle a little bit, get going, but they look solid on paper. They're looking for their first NCAA tournament appearance since 2012. Unreal.
I was going to say the teams that you don't really know what's going to happen, those are, pretty much those could be the teams that could be the most dangerous, Absolutely. Because it's just that unpredictable, they could be not so good, but they could also be possibly a top 10 team in the Big Ten.
Most definitely. That's what we were just talking about with hockey too. Teams at the bottom, Penn State, Notre Dame, you can upset on any given day. Yeah. And MSU basketball last night just lost to Indiana.
Yeah.
At home.
They've been struggling I think this whole season.
Yeah.
Indiana basketball has.
Exactly. We were double-digit favorites at home, number 11 in the country, and went down. So obviously you're going to see some of these teams in the middle of the pack try to make some noise. I think that's what's kind of the best route for MSU baseball to have success this year. Try to hang in there with the standings a little bit, play some of those Big Ten teams tight, try to make some noise, at least get yourself into the tournament for the Big Ten Conference tournament, because last year missing in it at under 500, obviously not what we're expecting with Jake Boss entering his 17th season as the head coach. Like, he's been around for a while. He knows how to win in college baseball. I know we mentioned the only NCAA tournament appearance in 2012. That was the first one, only appearance since 1979. So it's been a crazy long time coming for MSU baseball. They really kind of got to have a season where it's like, at least get them in the swing of things, at least give them a chance to compete. And I think that's the most important thing for them. Also go out and have fun, because you got a mix of young guys, older guys, and
Just
some important basketball.
competitive.
Yeah, and any team under Jake Boss Jr. really has the potential to have that success and go a long way, hopefully, to Omaha this year.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of add about Joey Giroir. Obviously, he's coming back, pulled out of the transfer portal. But you see a guy like him pull out of the transfer portal when he could have gone to a school like Vanderbilt. I think that's such a huge testament to the coaching staff and what they can bring to the table and how much they want these players to be successful and to get them into the national tournament for the first time since, what'd you say,
2012.
2012.
So, and I think, and going off of that too, I think another development I really want to see is Adam Eaton on this coaching staff. He's it's been a few years since he's been here now, but I think that MLB experience that he provides, he's played in the majors for a few seasons, more than a few seasons, if that. I think that's kind of a testament to bringing some of those guys back too, because they have the coaching staff. They to get wins on the table. They know what they need to do. The coaching staff is very experienced of all levels, college, MLB, like we just mentioned, and Jake Boss being here for however long. So I think that they have a great mix of guys. They got the foundation right. Obviously, the play will come around at the end of the day, getting some of those recruits from in-state as well, too, because the Big Ten's not known for its baseball necessarily. That's dominated by the SEC. That's why getting Dwerza back from verbally committing to Vanderbilt is huge, because Vanderbilt is easily one of the top schools in baseball. They've been to the...
It's Vandy.
Yeah, it's Vandy baseball. It doesn't get much better than that. So, like, bringing that up, too, I think it's just about creating your own identity, because obviously for the Big Ten standpoint, but for your own standpoint as well, it's not as big out here. It's a 17-team conference now with UCLA, Oregon, Washington, and USC coming into play as well. So there's just so much opportunity, I feel like. Obviously, this team, we don't really know what they're going to do, but I think it's just about creating an identity and just going out there, knowing that they have the experience. And as long as you get chemistry, as long as you kind of play together, those results will come eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. I think identity is such a big thing for a lot of MSU sports. You talk about the identity of the MSU baseball team. That's Adam Nightingale talks about the identity of the hockey team. I mean, you see the identity of Tom Izzo's basketball team. Identity is a very big thing in MSU athletics, and I think that really helps with these teams' success.
Yeah, it's the big reason why they have success in the first place. That's
Absolutely.
how we built. That's how Thomas has built his legacy here. That's how Adam Nightingale is building his legacy here as well. And I think it's a perfect segue into our last segment with MSU gymnastics. Talk about an identity they've built. They have been unreal this year.
Absolutely.
Number 6 in the country this week. They were down from number 5, but besides the point, they're still a top 10 team. And Nikki Smith has been absolutely unbelievable. She is across the board in pretty much everything you can imagine, but so much fun to see. She just got named co-gymnast of the week, Big Ten gymnast of the week this past week. That's her 3rd Big Ten gymnast of the week honors of 2025. Unreal.
I mean, the gymnastics team this year has just been unstoppable. Obviously, we've seen them go back-to-back Big Ten championships in the past couple seasons. You go up against a program like UCLA last week. They knew that was going to be a very, very tough matchup when you have Jordan Childs on the floor. And she scored a perfect 10 on the floor, and that really helped solidify the UCLA upset over MSU. But then they come back and they rebound themselves at home against Minnesota. And, like you said, I mean, the identity of this team, they've just been absolutely on fire, and it's so amazing I think it's just so great to see a team other than basketball, hockey, football just be absolutely electric. You shout out our gymnastics team, our tennis team. There's so many other sports at this school that are just amazing that people don't talk about, and the MSU gymnastics team is absolutely one of them.
Most definitely.
I mean, the gymnastics team against UCLA, that was the first time that Fox Sports had covered that game like on
That
television.
was the first time they'd ever
Yeah.
done a live broadcast of a gymnastics meet was MSU and UCLA.
I mean
Amazing.
that matchup we only lost by 1/10 of a point,
Yeah.
just because of Jordan's amazing floor routine where she got a perfect 10, or like her second perfect 10 on the season.
She's an Olympic gymnast.
Yeah.
She's unreal. I mean, I wouldn't expect anything else from her.
I mean, but the fact that like we were able, it seemed like we were ahead like that entire match. Unfortunately, there was some mistakes on the beam routine, I believe.
I believe so too.
Yeah, it was just kind of like shot ourselves in the foot a couple times. But the fact that we were, in that matchup is just insane against a squad that has an Olympic gymnast.
Yeah.
But shout out to Nikki Smith. She's just been insane this entire season. And then we took care of business against Minnesota, and then we play Nebraska on the 15th.
I think that really goes back to the depth of rosters at MSU. You talk about Jordan Childs as an Olympic gymnast, and they only beat us by 1/10 of a point. They only beat us by 1/10 of a point. We don't have we don't have Olympic gymnasts on our team. We have Nikki Smith, who is probably the closest we're going to get to an Olympic gymnast. I mean, she set the program record and has the season high national ranking on the vault this year. She's just been outstanding. But yeah, I mean, you talk about the depth of a team. These ladies have been killing it.
Yeah, and it's great for the brand too, because like you were saying, we're picking, like, for this podcast, we got to pick between all these sports that are like putting on for MSU and getting different coverage with being on TV for the first time. It's just huge for the sport, and I think it's about as great as it can get for gymnastics, because it's deserved its respect, it's deserved its flowers for however long now. And I think Nikki Smith, Gabby Stevens, some of those girls that are really doing it for us. I mean, I want to read you off some of Nikki Smith's stats. I mean, from last week against Minnesota, season high 39.575 score, third on the bars title with 9.925, tied a season high with 9.875 on the beam, third place on the vault and the floor as well, with a 9.875 score on the vault, 9.9 on the floor. It's been unreal. She's second in the entire country, all schools, with a 9.917 average score on the vault. Like, if that's not impressive, I don't even care if you don't understand gymnastics or what the scores mean. That is unbelievable. She's really putting on for the brand that we got here with MSU Gymnastics, and we're soaring in the top 10. We're hanging around. We're obviously that close match against UCLA. That's what we're going to keep doing. It's showing you that this is what we're here for. MSU Gymnastics is not playing around. They want to stick around. They want to compete with some of those teams that have some Olympians and stuff like that that can really turn it up, and that's what we're doing.
And might I add, Jennison Fieldhouse was really bumping for that game against Minnesota last Friday. It's great to see all these fans come out to gymnastics. Like you said, the sport has really deserved its flowers for some time now, and it's great to see it coming at MSU here.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you talk about Jennison getting picked. I mean, how about Breslin?
Right.
They had their first ever gymnastics meet at Breslin. Yeah, I wish that
event to cover.
I had to work hockey, so I couldn't go. But I mean, talk about.
I was able to cover that, and that was just an electric atmosphere.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the process of how people are picked for like USM gymnastics and whatnot, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if we hear a couple MSU gymnasts are on that selection team or on that team.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, and Nikki Smith is definitely one of them that deserves that for sure. She's just been electric this year.
She's been getting that national coverage. I mean, for gymnastics, it's
I mean, I was scrolling through MSU Gymnastics Twitter today while I was preparing for this podcast, kind of just like trying to find some important notables and stuff like that. And I swear to God, like everything. 2 out of the 3 posts are Nikki Smith. Just did this. Nikki Smith just broke a record. Nikki Smith tied her season high. It's unbelievable. And like obviously she's not the only reason that MSU is having the success this year, but it's just so cool to see. Like it's like you have that star. We were just talking Joseph Zorza on the baseball team, and Red Savage. I know he went down, but we also got other guys stepping up for MSU hockey. So it's like there's always that one guy, that one girl that is really stepping up, putting it on for MSU. It's just so fun to see. And the fact that they're getting recognized with national recognition, they're getting recognized by playing in the Breslin Center with events like MSU hockey going on at the same time, who's also top 5 in the country. They're able to host.
To get the crowd they did, it was just So cool.
Absolutely unreal.
I will say that it is kind of fun to see that, like, you know, obviously basketball and football are the two biggest sports in the country right now, but it's like for MSU, all the other sports, they have like that one signature player versus, you know, football and basketball. I would say that they don't have that signature player. I don't know if you guys would agree with that or not, but that's just one thing that I've kind of observed.
Yeah, and definitely for the football team and basketball team, like you have your stars and you have the people that are obviously recognized by name: Aiden Childs, Jaden Akins, senior leadership, quarterback for football. But obviously the football team's been kind of sluggish for a little bit now. There's no shame in denying that, but that's okay because that gives the other teams at MSU the chance to step up and really show that, hey, even though our football team is not as good as it is, and it may not be competing with some of the other teams and other schools that have a great football team, we're here to play too. Yeah. Especially, I mean, even we're known for basketball here at MSU, but even when that's not going well, sometimes when you got a loss last night, stuff like that, we got other teams that are going to step up. I think that the success that MSU's had, because MSU, I've said it on this podcast before, MSU is a national brand, and it's across all sports. MSU hockey, being number one in the country for however long they have been in the season, like obviously they're still top 5, and MSU gymnastics being top 10 in the country, stuff like that. Even with the basketball team playing well as they are this season, it all contributes to MSU being a brand. And I think that brands with such recognition like MSU and some of the other ones nationally in these sports, it brings so much more attraction to the sports that deserve the love, because we're talking about gymnastics. They've been putting on a show, and if you haven't gotten to gymnastics meet, I'm probably guilty of saying that myself. I need to get to one as soon as I possibly can, because they are so much fun. But go out and support these girls. It's so much fun to watch. Like you said, the atmosphere, especially in a Breslin, especially in Jenison, like you said too as well. Yeah. They really put on a show, and it's unbelievable. There's so much more to college sports than just football, NIL, and bringing in revenue. It is so much fun to support the people that you go to school with, the people that go to your school if you're an alumni. It's so much fun.
I mean, the next home game for gymnastics is against Rutgers on the 22nd. So if you guys haven't gotten your tickets already, I would definitely try to get your tickets now.
Yeah,
so
lock them in. They might be going fast. So
yeah.
That's the thing. It's so much exciting. But does anybody have any last minute comments on anything else that's been going on here, but to shout out the gymnastics team?
No, it's been great to get on the podcast today, talk about all these amazing MSU sports. We got so many great teams in the top 25 across tennis, gymnastics, basketball, hockey, whatever it is. It's been great.
Yeah, it makes it a lot more fun than just sitting here being like, oh, so MSU lost again. We did this again. He's out for the season. So obviously it gives us a lot to be excited about, but as always, we definitely appreciate you guys tuning in. It's been so much fun to do another episode, and hopefully we'll continue to see some of the success sustaining. We got some exciting sports coming to a close like hockey, and some exciting sports starting like baseball, so definitely stay tuned for what's coming in the next few weeks and months. But it's been great having you guys on for another podcast, another episode of the podcast, and we look forward to seeing you guys for the next one.
See ya.